Thank you, Joanna, and thank you very much again for this kind invitation. It's difficult to talk after Tari because he's always fascinating with his speeches. Well, first of all, I have to declare no conflict of interest at all concerning my talk today. Well, I was trying to find out sort of definition of shared decision-making. That was the title of my talk. Well, if you look at the first point that the patient says, listen to me. And I think that this will be the common stuff in my talk. And because decision-making, the sharing of the decision-making as positive reinforcement, for instance, in this case, in the physical disability, so in a totally different field of the one we are going to talk today. But what is the first hurdle? The time. I got this slide from Eric Bateman, was actually revising how much time in primary care, and I'm pleased Dermot Ryan is here, so maybe that we can discuss. This is an hurdle. In Pakistan, it's a nightmare, 3 minutes for a visit. How could you imagine to have a sharing making decision about it? So let me go with some friends. We published a paper that was quite interesting, but I think that is still interesting. Well, about adherence, or better, the compliance, one of the major points was the side effects of the treatment. So we moved asking to the patients and to the doctors. This is a survey that was done all over the world. And who is going to starting to discuss about the side effects? Fantastic. Patients say 60% it's me. And the doctors, they say, oh, it's me. Well, someone is lying, I guess. Now, going more in detail, as you can see, there is a clear-cut difference between the answer of the physician and the patients. Look, the first one. What about the correct inhaler technique? Did you teach how to use properly the device? I think that there is a dichotomy between the answer. And what was the most important issue? The perception by the patient that just 25% of the office visit is devoted to education. And if there is no education, how could you get the result that Tari was talking about? No way. And for instance, as far as compliance is concerned, we know that there is a relationship between the time that you are spending in educating the patient and the results that you can get in adherence. Well, the patient-centered approach is, of course, very important, but again, look, informed, activating and participatory patient and family, and of course, as Tari was mentioning, also accessibility to the treatments and communication skills, good communication skills. And I think that nowadays we have, at least in our field. And of course, the improved communication is, of course, leading to improved healthcare outcomes. No, I'm not going. Let's say one of the major issues is patients, education, and empowerment. Now, let me move to this paper that I strongly suggest to have a look. Why? Because it's how to translate in clinical practice what is the concept of the personalized medicine, which is nowadays the goal we were talking about on the precision medicine too. Look, from the traditional medical practice to personalized medicine, the first point is education and awareness from one side, and the patient's empowerment. So we have to move, and we have to move also for ensuring the access to care to our patients. So everything is more or less fitting, you say? Yeah? Okay. We can skip this part. There are new ideas to go ahead. Yep. Look, this is the list of the points with the research areas concerning this opportunity. That is the shared decision making is in any case welcome by the policymakers. And I think that this is a key point. Why? Because it's ethical and for the respect of the patient's autonomy and engagement. To make a long story short, I wish to introduce you to P4 medicine that you probably know. And this guy is Leroy Hood, who developed the concept of P4 medicine that is nowadays largely used and promoted by NIH. P4 medicine, what does it mean, P4 medicine? Predictive, preventive, personalized, and participatory. But has a different approach compared to the past. Why? Because the premise is in the next 20 years, medical practice will be revolutionized by biotechnology to manage person's health instead of manage patient's disease, which is, if you look back to Tari's slides, exactly what was developed in his program in Finland. So to start before. Well, if you are applying this kind of approach in the respiratory field, and you know that Alvar Agosti is a guy that is always looking for words, I mean, you have to start, and Glenis mentioned before, all these omics sciences, but of course you have also something else, such biosensors, for instance, and this kind of medicine, the P4 medicine, is applied in respiratory medicine. But look, even in sleep apnea is now one of the frontiers that has to be analyzed. And let me go back to the point concerning the omics sciences. We are used to talk about genomics, transcriptomics, proteomics, micro, whatever. I wish to introduce you to different omics, humanomics and personomics. It's important. Why? Oh, sorry. Because this is really the way to change everything. Let me first go to a paper that we published last year concerning how personalized or precision medicine can work. And in fact, we introduced personomic, P4 medicine, and humanomics for the best evaluation of the patient. Let me give you an example. How could you prescribe a drug for asthma if you do not evaluate properly which kind of device is the right one for your patient? This is a personalization of the treatment. On the other side, of course, omics science and resistance biology are very, very important, and the integration of precision and personalized medicine is how to get the best patient treatment. Now let me go back to the P4 medicine. This is a paper that is quite inspiring. Why? Because Leroy Wood was designing, for instance, out from genome, you are going to have telehealth. That is, in a way or another, what we are discussing since this morning. It's a complex situation. Yes, of course, it is. But in the beginning, we were just looking at these kind of networks. Now we have to look to a different kind of networks and the holy trinity of biology, because from the biology, of course, you should get the information. But now we need the computation and the technology to properly deal with the data that we can get. No, I'm going ahead, too difficult. But let me just give you an example. We were used to talk about reactive medicine, evidence-based medicine, which is different from the proactive P4 medicine. I was talking about respond after patient is sick. So the disease treatment system, maybe also with a few measurements, was a disease-centric with the standard of care associated with the population-based disease diagnosis. On the other side, we have deeply integrated data that can provide an improvement in healthcare strategies and the social networking of patients that are enhancing sharing the experience and the knowledge in consultation of the physician. The stratification of the disease population in small groups, and this might be one of the new possibilities for approval by FDA. I mean, the systems biology and the wireless measuring device to do a better job in managing their health. And this is a reality nowadays. But let me go to the point. How our science worked up to date? Well, discovery of science, largely separated sphere of activity, which communicate primarily through the publication of articles in peer-reviewed journals. Well, probably this is a way that we will pursue for a while, but we need a different approach. And the different approach is, for instance, it was mentioned the big data, and of course the new technologies, how to use and how to evaluate it, but the discovery science and in practice medicine are integrated through digital networks and heterogeneous database to capture data from clinical and for discovery purposes. You know, officially distribute information about stratified disease on an ongoing basis. I think that I can sweat this looking at the two major objectives of what I'm talking now. And P4 medicine has two major objectives: quantify the wellness and demystify the disease. Again, I suggest to have a look of this paper because it's inspiring. Maybe that you don't like it, but you know, it's well defined because it's looking at patients and the consumers and also striking the implications for the society. So it's not just a discovery of something that you publish, and we are, of course, happy to publish in a very good journal. The network is more and more complex, but patient-centered with, of course, all is possible and where healthcare technology is becoming and playing a very important role. The P4 medicine should be brought to the patients. And I think that this is one of the possibilities. Let me finish my talk showing you something that we just published last week with some patients' organizations. And this is the new charter of severe asthma patients. If you look, we are talking about always about the same topics we thought today. Why? Because the first principle is I deserve, as a patient, a timely, straightforward referral when my severe asthma cannot be managed in primary care. Or I deserve a timely formal diagnosis of my severe asthma by an expert team. I deserve support to understand my type of severe asthma. I deserve care that reduces the impact of severe asthma on my daily life and improves my overall quality of care. I deserve not to be reliant on oral corticosteroids. This is something that is very, very important. And lastly, I deserve to assess consistent quality of care, regardless of where I live or where I choose to assess it. The new projects should be instrumental to provide answers to this point. And let me tell you that, going back to the paper that we published on, nowadays is very, very important, the networking of the centers of excellence. As far as asthma is concerned, the answer can come from the network at a national level. There are regional networks. For instance, in Europe, there is a SHARP, and in the world there is ISAR. These are some of the ways, or possibly the more easy way, to get big data and to analyze the data, and I wish to remind that in all these projects, the patients are playing a crucial role also in designing the projects and the different work packages. So this is important. So let me finish with my take-home message. P4 medicines needs P4 education. And this is, again, going back to the point that education and awareness is becoming, it was, and it is, and it will be a crucial issue. And let me conclude with the paper on personomics. Well, I would say that we didn't reinvent the wheel, but we are close to, because William Osler was imploring physicians to focus on the patients. Well, now we can call it personomics. And is a different way to restyle and to update the definition. What is important is that to realize the potential of personalized medicine, not simply some aspects of it. And if we are to prepare our student and resident, we should start since the beginning of the career to deliver individualized healthcare when they enter the practice of medicine. Let me tell you that, unfortunately, for a long, long time, the one-size-fits-all was what I learned, and possibly also what I teach for too much time. I wish to conclude, of course, thanking all the new group that is now in Milan, and the old group that is still in my heart, and we are still working very hard together. Thank you for your attention.